Hi, Tina Jackson here. Today we are going to make my homemade pancakes from fresh ground wheat berries. I'm going to show you how to use the Wonder Mill. This is a wonderful product for grinding whole wheats, spelt, any kind of hard grains. Even now, this Wonder Mill has an attachment that you could do even smaller grains too. So that's like, I think they have like 2 different smaller attachments that you can put in here that will help for the smaller grains. But I usually use like a little coffee grinder for my smaller grains. And then for this bigger one, I use for the wheat berries. I will also put a few links below for this particular model of this Wonder Mill. And the wheat berries, if you've never been exposed to why grinding your own fresh wheat is so beneficial, I highly recommend you check into the Bread Beckers, and I'll have their link below. Fabulous, wonderful information about how fresh ground wheat, when you first grind it, there's such great nutrition in it. It takes care of eczema, takes care of warts, it takes care of so many different bodily issues because of the oils that are in it, the vitamin E that gets broken open, and the protein in it as well. And so I really love this. When I found out as I was doing the keto diet and I broke out in a big rash, immediately I thought about the Bread Beckers because I remember the testimony about their daughter having eczema or one of their family members, and how the rash wouldn't go away until they had the fresh ground wheat. You know, wheat is very biblical. You know, you had the bread and you had the wine. And so again, we're going back to basics, trying to keep things all real and all authentic. So I am going to make my homemade whole wheat pancakes. Now, it's not going to be like the wheat of like you would think in the store, because that kind of wheat at the store is completely different than freshly ground wheat. So, and I'm going to be using hard wheat, hard red wheat. When I make my pancakes, I like that nuttier texture, that nuttier flavor. And so for breads, you want to use the hard wheat. For pastries, you'd want to use like the soft wheat. And there's a difference, and the Bread Beckers will educate you if you just tap in. So going ahead, I'm going to grind three cups of the hard wheat. Now I'm going to end up muting it for you and maybe having some fast music for you because this is going to get really, really loud. Okay, upon disassembling the wheat grinder, you can end up seeing that this wheat is freshly ground flour. So this fresh ground flour is just made just like regular flour you'd get at the store. And it has all the vitamins, all the nutrients that you're gonna need to have a healthy whatever you're making. So, and I do have the recipe, I modified it from the Bread Beckers. I did get their recipe book. I just made some tweaks of my own that I really liked in their modifications of what they had. But I do recommend, if you do get a wheat grinder, get their cookbook. It'll help establish things. And again, she has so much great information. Okay, I just repositioned things a little bit better so you can see everything going on. You will need some kind of mixer. I love my KitchenAid. This has been a lifesaver for me. My husband surprised me with it some 20-some years ago, and we were just young. We were in our 20s, and I was like, why did you buy such an expensive thing? And I've absolutely loved a KitchenAid. If you're getting married, make sure that you put this on your wedding registry. It is just the most awesome thing because you could set it and forget it. Go do some other things, come back, especially if you're making whipped things with white egg yolks and white egg whites and things of that nature. It really is one of those beautiful things. KitchenAid, awesome. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do is I get my wet stuff working while I work on the dry stuff. I just, for this purposes of this demonstration, I just propped up this wheat bucket on top of my wheat berries just so you could see it a little bit. But I'm just gonna start off, I have here just a 1/3 cup of oil. This is grapeseed oil, but you can use whatever oil you prefer. This is what I like and have. Just turning on my mixer. Go ahead and put some, there's 4 eggs in here. So I'm just gonna break up these eggs, get them broken up. Nothing special, just breaking the eggs in there. I know some people like to mix the wet into the dry. I like to put the dry into the wet. That way I get to see the consistency a little bit better. And I'm gonna start off with 3 cups of whole milk. And we'll probably end up adding maybe another cup as it goes along. I have noticed during the different seasons that I may need more milk during different seasons than other seasons. I have no idea. I don't know if it's the moisture in the air or what the difference is, but it just all fluctuates. So right now I just put 3 cups of milk in. I like to put vanilla in my pancakes. So I'm gonna put 2 teaspoons of vanilla. This is pure vanilla. So you could have pure vanilla, is what I prefer. I don't like the imitation. I'm all about going all natural as much as possible. And as that's just mixing up, I'm just gonna turn that off slightly for now. So again, just to recap, we put the 1/3 cup oil, 4 eggs, and 3 cups of milk, and then 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now for the flour mixture, we are gonna have our milled flour that's here, and then we're gonna do a teaspoon of salt. So just, this is real salt, sea salt, and I just sprinkle it all in there. Don't just plop it in one spot. I mean, we will mix this up as well. I'm gonna wipe this off. I got some salt on it, so just wipe that off. And you want 4 teaspoons of this. So again, just try to sprinkle it around a little bit. And 1 more. And remember, you know, you scrape the side up there. Now I'm just gonna take a fork and mix up this flour. So that way the baking powder, the salt, and the flour all mixes together. So you don't get a clump of baking soda. That is so nasty. And by the way, if you're ever cooking or baking and you notice that there's a funny taste, sometimes that baking powder goes rancid. So make sure you're changing that out, especially if you're not a frequent baker. I bake pretty frequently, so mine get to use very quickly. Okay, I just mixed that up. Now I'm just gonna end up gently folding it into the mixture. By the way, my griddle, or my grill, is on 325 heating up. It is already greased. I usually have bacon grease on there because I'm usually cooking bacon first, and I just leave it a little greasy. Today I just had to oil it up because I didn't cook any bacon beforehand. Okay, so I'm just gonna turn this back on and gradually just put the flour in here, and I'll show you what the consistency should look like. Many of these newer mixers have a little flour ramp, and the flour ramp is really cool. You just love this beautiful flour. It's just gorgeous. Okay, so I'm just gonna lift it up real quick. Scrape your sides. Be sure to always scrape the sides of your mixing bowl. Anytime you're baking, scrape it to the very bottom, because in the center sometimes there's a little like rise in the bowl. I don't know about the newer versions, but I like to just scrape it really down into the center area. So looking at this, it's to me just about perfect. I'm gonna just keep it on for 30 more seconds just to get the other parts that I just scraped up. I could just end up putting maybe just a little bit more milk in, just to make it a little bit more soupier. Okay, so the consistency looks really good for me. Just gonna knock that out. I ended up just rinsing out my measuring cup real quick, and we're gonna use the measuring cup for the griddle. So I'll go ahead and just pour some pancakes in there. It makes a bit of a mess, so I always seem to have a paper towel handy. Okay, just mix it up a little bit. There's just a little bit of milk on the sides. It's all right, it'll be good. All right, I'm gonna reposition this so we can get our griddle right before your eyes. Okay, now that my griddle is all cooked up, got its temperatures at 325, and I am, by the way, I love this Presto one. This Presto griddle is awesome. And I have it in my measuring cup. Just put a little bit in each spot. This is a 20-inch griddle. It's 10.5 by 20. I like this bigger one. And don't worry if you get little ones here and there, because you know what? If you got kids, the kids love the tiny pancakes. It just adds that little extra flair at the end. Sometimes the first set of pancakes coming out with the grease turn out a little different than the ones that proceed after it. So the one side of it's going to look a little different. Now you're going to want these pancakes to continue to cook until they start to bubble. And once the bubbling all stops on this one side, then you will flip it. So I'm going to go ahead and let it do its thing. I'll fast forward for you until it's about ready to be flipped. Okay, so the pancakes are starting to bubble, and the bubbling, it starts to bubble up, and then it'll go kapoof. And so let's just take a look. It's nice and golden brown on this side. Let me just take a little peek. Now this next side is not going to take as long. And they're looking really good to me. This took about 5 minutes to do the one side. This other side is probably only going to take about 2 minutes. It's not going to take very long. And remember, the first time that this goes through with the new oil that's on the pan, it usually is a little different than the rest of the pancakes. So we're just going to let these cook up, and when they get done, I'll show you the end result. Okay, my pancakes are about done. I'm going to take them off. Make sure you always put them on a cooling rack unless you're serving them right away. Then by all means, go ahead and, we're going to get that one actually right on my plate. But use a cooling rack if you'd like to. And I'm going to end up freezing half of these. And half of them will get frozen. And I'll put parchment paper in between and then put them in a Ziploc baggie. Then the other half will go in the fridge, and I will gently put them in the toaster. Okay, I got done with my pancakes, and I put them on my plate. Put a little bit of butter on there and some pure maple syrup from Michigan. I love the Amish people up north, and so I love that. I put a little bit of walnuts on there, and usually a half a banana, but we're out of bananas today. This is an awesome and fantastic pancake. Definitely worth taking the time to make homemade. Fresh ground in the mill with Wonder Mill. And I encourage you, check out my links below and make something fresh, make something new, make it for real. And you know that every ingredient is in here, and there's no sugar besides the maple sugar. So anyways, I'm Tina Jackson, and you have a fantastic day. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for joining me.